Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Truck Around and Find Out podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Keith Couch with Rush Truck Center in Greeley, Colorado. And I also have Rocky Mountain Peterbilts on YouTube. And we also have Ryan Byers, owner of Front Range Compliance and DOT University. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Keith. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks for that lovely introduction. So I heard you went camping this weekend.
I did.
Yeah.
Horsetooth Reservoir.
Back up at the Horsetooth, huh?
It has water.
I was surprised because, driving around right now, Colorado, it's crispy everywhere, and we're starting to see the fires. And everywhere that I saw that there was a pond, a few months ago, it looks to me like it's just a mud hole right now. Yeah. There's no water anywhere.
Yeah, the marina's on the mud at Boyd Lake.
Yeah.
I just drove by Dillon Reservoir to deliver a truck up to Cody up in Rifle.
Oh, twin guns, right?
Yep.
Hey, Cody, hope you're tuning in, buddy.
Drove by Dillon Reservoir, and it's ugly. It's low.
Wow.
Like really low.
Holy smokes. I remember a few years ago, Blue Mesa was dry, had gone down, and they were finding stuff that, missing cars, that, people in them and stuff like that, and gone off the bridge or gone off into the water and things like that. Wow. It's like the mysteries get discovered when those lakes
I think
empty
Lake
out.
Mead, they were finding people in 55-gallon drums.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. So hopefully we don't find any of that going on in Colorado. It's like, oh, hey, Lake Dillon is now dry, and we discovered there's been a serial killer. So, yeah, hopefully we don't get that story.
I think they said it's 83% of capacity.
Wow. 83, and we were talking about that. So, because it seems like all the water around here is owned by somewhere. So I'm assuming, since you were kind of telling me that lake is part of that series of lake, that they actually pipe the water in from Grand County. Like they bring it over the mountains and to this side.
Actually, it goes under.
It's got a tunnel.
It's a tunnel.
I was just saying, I always wondered how they got it over.
If you look on a map, it's the west end of Grand Lake. And there's a big tunnel there that goes underneath, comes out at St. Mary's Lake above Estes. Mm-hmm. And then it piped down to Lake Estes in the town of Estes. And then it pipes down to Pinewood Reservoir, Flatirons. Now the new Chimney Hollow is there, and Carter Lake. And then it's canals and stuff takes it over to Horsetooth.
Okay.
So I think that's on, pretty sure that's correct. That's all on one system. But I don't know why Horsetooth and Carter have water and other lakes don't. I guess they're just different systems.
When they decide to drain them, you were saying that you've heard that like Horsetooth is like a year or two behind. So while they're filling the rest of the reservoirs in the area, they're probably going to be draining from those. So maybe those water levels will go down. I haven't been by Carter. I know in the area that for boating, Carter was always one of my favorite ones to go to. Everybody complains about it because it's colder water, but we actually found that pretty refreshing. With 100-some degree day in those days.
I remember a few years ago we took Kate up to Shadow Mountain Reservoir, and it was August, and he's like, I'm going to do some wakeboarding. And he got in the water and got right back out.
Yeah.
That was cold water.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
really cold water.
Yeah. We used to, at Carter, we'd always go over by the dam, and just float. You couldn't drop the anchor because it was like 500 feet deep right there. Yeah. And so you just kind of float, and as you start getting where you're not supposed to be, fire up the boat and move back out and then jump out and swim around it and then keep moving the boat. But yeah, we used to have tons of fun right over there on that lake, the kids, and good times. So you went camping, you did some cooking, and you had some family with
Kelly
you.
And I, and then Carlos, technically he's my ex-son-in-law, but we got him in a divorce. So he likes to go camping. Cade and his family came up. We had some burgers, some brats, and then Dave and Denise from the GTO club, they came up.
Good.
So,
good people.
Yeah. No, we had a good time. It was really nice. It actually cooled off at night, which felt good.
Gotcha.
I know yesterday running that truck up to Cody, stopped at Georgetown on the way up I-70, and our new general manager, he followed me up in a company pickup, and he's never been up I-70. He's from Texas.
Really?
Never been up that way. We got to Georgetown. We get out of the truck and we go in to get a cup of coffee and go to the bathroom and everything. And 49 degrees. It felt so good.
Holy moly! Yeah, 110 down
and
there.
I think it shocked him when he got out of the pickup. He's like, "Oh my gosh, this feels great."
Right. What did he think of those 3 passes?
I think he enjoyed it. I know he made a comment. He was just back in Texas for a funeral, and he said he had family and friends asking him, you just tired of Colorado yet? Ready to come back to Texas? You miss Texas or whatever? And he's kind of like, no.
Colorado really is pretty spectacular.
It is.
I mean, the state in itself, the land, there's just been certain changes. First off, the population of Colorado, the explosion. You know, I remember, you know, my grandparents were farmers in Platteville, and my grandpa, Sickage, before he passed, he would talk to us. He'd say, you know, the last part of the city was always at 120th, you know, as you're coming north on I-25, north on I-25. And he'd always talk. He'd say, you know, all this farmland, he'd say, this is all going to be houses one day. And everybody kind of laugh and say, oh, no, that's not going to happen. And he was right, because that's exactly what it is. And unfortunately, our traffic pattern, I mean, if they're driving a truck and they drive down I-25, they're going to know what we're talking about. It's insane, you know, and nobody, of course, gives the respect that's due to the truck drivers. And by respect, I mean the space around their vehicle. You know, truck drivers trying to follow, you know, with proper following distances, keep his vehicle spaced. To the motoring public, that essentially means, hey, please pull in front of me, take that space in front of me, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's crazy times, but it seems like now the traffic pattern is all those cities, you know, you got Fort Collins to Loveland, and you got Loveland to Berthoud, then you got Erie, and it seems like it's got all of its usual backups anymore. And oh gosh, I must be getting older, because I remember when my parents started saying, we just don't like to drive on that I-25. They always called it the Valley Highway. So the Valley Highway, I'm kind of starting to feel that way. I'm on it at least 2 or 3 times a week, running back and forth from Denver. But yeah, it's insane out there, the traffic, the way people drive, and I'm kind of I just like to get outside in that outside lane and just let everybody else drive crazy, where I can see them out there in front of me. Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. Yeah. So you went camping this weekend. This last weekend for me, I had to move my mom, so we had to deal with that situation. She is making the jump from her home into not an assisted living, but independent living. So she got herself a little 2-bedroom apartment. I'm super excited for her. I hope that she enjoys it. I got to go to lunch with her a few times, and it's pretty funny, because when you go and you sit around the crowd of all the older generation, there's some younger people there that you can tell that have had some injuries and some stuff like that just are living somewhere it's a little easier for them to get around, that kind of thing. But I just noticed the little old lady tables that were around, and they were all dressed up, and they had their jewelries on, and you could tell they were wearing their fancy clothes. And I was just thinking, you know, it's going to be like that every day. Those little ladies all get together, and those little sewing circles. I tried to tell my mom, I'm like, you can get in some of those tables. I said, I guarantee you're going to know everything that's going on around this place, and every little bit of thing. When I was growing up, that was the Avon lady's job. So, you know, we had Avon lady that knew everybody in the valley, and she'd stop around for her hour and fill you in once a week. So that kind of thing. So we did that. I did get to my garden. I did some harvesting. I was told you about that. You've seen my garden boxes when you were over. So right now they are just being overrun with all my plants, and I've got tomatoes and peppers.
I want some tomatoes.
Yes, I will need to get you some, because I did the harvest, and I don't know if I could say exactly what Luke said, but when I sent him a picture of them, he said that's a ton, technically an F ton, that kind of thing.
We were just discussing whether that's more or less than a metric ton.
So we were discussing what the official term of an F ton actually is, and I was making a mention that we do have Redbeard. Made him get a mic today so he can rejoin us. So what would your definition of that tonnage amount be?
Well, you've got a big old island in your kitchen, and it looked like they covered every inch of that island in that video you sent. So I would say that is a lot, of an F-ton,
for a garden box, a blank ton. Yeah, we definitely had a lot of tomatoes. So and I left a lot on there because it was going to be ready in a few more days. So I'll make sure I pick some and maybe hand deliver you. So
I can run by and pick them up too.
Some tomatoes, because I am completely overrun right now with with tomatoes. So yeah, that was pretty exciting. I that's just my summer hobby, is doing my gardening thing, that kind of thing. And then I think the last thing that we did was Holly left. She flew to Montana and picked up our granddaughter. We got little Paige is going to be visiting us for the next couple weeks, and I think that's going to be time to buy her back to school clothes, or I should say start of school clothes, because she is getting ready to start kindergarten.
Boy.
She's very, very excited and full of sass, and I will probably want to make sure she's got some clothes to go with that personality and get her started in school, that kind of thing. So that's what we've been working on. So anything for them grandbabies, that's what I tell you. That seems to be the highlight of being, as I grow older, is grandbabies. So, well, Keith, today we were kind of looking and saying, hey, let's talk about some episodes. And Luke came up with this idea. Let's get into some headlines. So he went through and was kind of searching through some of our sites. Probably Freight Waves is where a lot of this came from, through some of their articles. Or where'd you come up with these articles there, Redbeard?
That's a great question.
That's to be determined. Okay. Well, anyways, we've got some articles and some very interesting headlines that have popped up. And I figured we'd just kind of talk about each of these little headlines, some crazy stuff that's going on surrounding the trucking community. So what you got there for one of our first headlines?
So the first one here is 3 plead guilty to a bribery scheme that allowed more than 100 drivers to obtain unearned CDLs.
Yeah,
So
very.
Guy had been bribing Department of Motor Vehicle people to
Approximately 124 people, this individual. And you know, if this happened by one individual, this is just the one that they found that they're prosecuting, right? Yeah. And now, first of all, the first thing I think that we should mention on this is each one of these are federal crimes. So each one is punishable by 10 years imprisonment. And that's for people that are involved in this. So, you know, when you're dealing with these federal crimes. So right now they're prosecuting 3 people. Total was about 124 people. And essentially it sounds to me like he was collecting $5,000 per person to get them through the system. And then he was also paying people to speed up the CDL school. We could skip the theory instructions, so no classroom, and then advancing the drive behind. So essentially these folks weren't working, but it even went one step further. It sounds like they found somebody at a DMV office that they were paying off that was answering the questions for these guys, right? Now, I don't know about you, Keith, but every time I turn on my social media, I'm seeing crazy truck crashes, like weird stuff. There is a common denominator in a lot of these crashes. You know, headlines that let you believe that, you know, pretty much everybody is south of the border that we're after with these people that shouldn't be driving. But the reality is we've got people from all over that shouldn't be driving all over the country. And that's one of the common denominators. I saw that side eye you gave me. I'm not going to say anything, hopefully, to get us in hot water. But no, Russ isn't here yet. If Russ was here, I'm going to save this.
I'm going
to set this one aside, and I'm going to say, hey, Russ, tell me what you think of this article. We won't have to say anything. He'll get us canceled. Yeah. So we got that. So, yeah, very interesting article. But like I said, you know, if this is happening once, you know it's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Again. I just look at all the fraud you're hearing about and everything else, and the common denominators. It's happening once, it's happening 1,000 times, and it's also happening everywhere. So, hey, maybe this will help to uncover it and they can find more schemes.
My CDL test, I showed up with a truck and trailer, and he says, "Are you Keith?" This was in Montana. I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's your truck and trailer?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you drive that here?" "Yes, sir." I said, "You just flunked. I'll see you in 2 weeks." Because he traveled around, you know. And I said, "Well, why did I flunk?" He said, "Do you have a CDL?" I said, "No, that's why I'm here." He goes, "You can't drive that here if you don't have a CDL."
Learn that one the hard way. So
yeah, I had to have somebody drop it off the next time.
You failed.
I failed. Yeah. Didn't even take the test.
Didn't even take the test. That's funny. All right. Next one that we've got here is West Virginia truck driver admits to $510,000 fuel card scheme. 510 grand. I know one common denominator between both these two stories is, boy, you're throwing an awful lot away for not a very much amount of money. I always said, if I'm going to commit a crime that's going to get me that much trouble, it's going to have to be enough money that I get to disappear for the rest of my life, forever. Yep. Other than that, 10 years in prison for each one of those charges. Well, this guy got $510,000 theft. He got caught, and he was basically using the fuel card. Sounds like the company had a fuel island, and so he could fill up all the truck there. So he used his fuel card, and he was making fictitious receipts and covering all of his purchases with a bunch of bogus receipts. Well, of course, it ended up catching him. I mean, money follows the trail forever. So, yeah, he got busted with that one, and he's going down for
and something like that. How can he think he wouldn't get caught?
Yeah. Yeah, and let's be, $510,000. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But in the grand scheme of things, at the rate that they get to spending it when they have that money, it doesn't last very long. So, if you're going to do that, and of course he's buying goods and everything else with it. I'm because you're not cashing that fuel card in for cash. So I'm assuming he was using it for purchases. I don't know. Did it say in there, Redbeard, if he was purchasing fuel or what he was purchasing?
It didn't say what he was spending or all that money on, but my favorite part of that article was he was making the bogus receipts to made up gas stations and sending those back to his company.
Well, if he's driving around the country, he's probably coming up with names and everything else. I wonder, one of our gas stations here's Big D. I wonder what people thought. I didn't get a receipt from Big D. So anyway, so that's kind of an interesting one.
Well, the next one we have is a driver is arrested for a drive-by shooting. And he told the officers he lost his mind. Well, obviously he did, because he was being harassed. The only good news I can see in this picture is he's driving a Peterbilt.
That was the very first thing old Keith noticed. He's like, well, at least he drives a nice truck, Peterbilt.
Well, So look, he's firing into a house in Owensboro, Kentucky. Wow.
Yeah. So apparently he did know somebody in that neighborhood or the person that he was after. When you read that article, it's not very
doesn't say much about him.
It's not very clear, but it does say that, if something was targeted because he was kind of in that area. So maybe he's having a problem with somebody in there. But I love that. Yeah. I lost my mind. Yeah. I would say so. I would say so. One of the big questions that I get a lot from truck drivers is they say that you're not allowed to have a firearm in a truck. So, and that is not true. You definitely can. Your Second Amendment rights hold true, shall not be infringed. So the federal government cannot set that law. However, I will say this. The company who owns that truck has every right to tell you, no, they don't want you to have firearms in that truck. So make sure you adhere to your company policies. But also on that same note, I did think it was pretty funny because they did mention that he had several firearms in the truck with him, but they only named one of them by name. Well, not by name, but by type. Mm-hmm. And you know what that one was. Yeah. So,
those big, bad black ones.
Big black rifles are bad. Big black rifles are real bad. So, okay. All right. Well, our next article here that we got to get into is driver disappears after police release him following a deadly roadside wreck on a motorist. So in this story, this driver went through, he got into this crash. It was a fatality, and the sheriff's department, the deputy that was investigating it, said, hey, take your information, take your stuff, and we'll be in contact with you tomorrow and to finish up our investigation and get everything all wrapped up on this. Apparently, the driver said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, and that's the last time anybody ever talked to that driver. So here we are 4 months later. They want to charge this with vehicular homicide or vehicular manslaughter, something like that. And this driver is nowhere to be seen. So sheriff's deputy, all I'd have to say is shame on you. I have so many questions, though, like, who's the company? Is he an owner or operator? Where's the truck registered to? We got to be able to track something down.
I mean, kind of a short article, and like I said, they don't talk about any of that at all.
Yeah, driver has been released. There's a picture of a guy on here, but I don't know if that's him or what that's about. But, definitely seems pretty odd to me. If you've got a vehicular homicide, something like that, you're going to look at the person and you think there's foul play involved, and somebody's grand idea is to say, hey, just go ahead and go. We'll catch up with you later. Well, that guy apparently cashed in his life savings and moved to Haiti or something. I don't know. Where's a place that you can go that you can't be extradited back to the U.S. because
facing vehicular homicide.
Vehicular homicide. So that means that there must have been some type of reckless action vehicular homicide here in Colorado, it's going to be either reckless or DUI, something related to go with that elevated of a charge. So, kind of wild there. Kind of wild. So crazy articles, crazy hot topics these days. Last one we've got there, Keith.
Yeah, this is one where they should have. This says what's a tuck driver?
I say somebody, Luke, driver. Are you making up these, Red Bear? No. Did you type these headlines and you got us reading it?
So we had a tuck driver who ran over a pedestrian while driving without his prescription glasses, and he's taken into custody. So it sounds like the guy died.
Definitely did. Yeah. So we've got a vehicular manslaughter for violating the terms of his CDL and his medical card. It does get into it and say that the guy tried to say, apparently he told the enforcement that he doesn't need his glasses to drive. He only needs them to read. Well, apparently he needs them to see the people on the roadway also, which is a very common, you hear that from a lot of people that say, hey, these are just reading glasses. But it doesn't sound, according to the article, the police confirmed that with his sight that he had, he wouldn't be able to see somebody at the front of their truck because the guy is, his whatever his vision problems are, that's not going to fly. But then they did confirm with his medical examiner that his medical certification also had a vision restriction, which is interesting because I'm sure that you're aware of this, but if your license has a restriction, your medical card has to also have that restriction, and vice versa. If a driver gets a medical restriction on their medical certification, then their license needs to be, if that same restriction's not on the license, it's supposed to be updated to reflect. So the two need to somewhat be coordinated. So, people make those mistakes, but sounds like this guy was restricted and just chose not to use it.
The victim, the guy that got run over, was even wearing a reflective jacket.
Yes, he was. He did have his high vis vest. So, it's pretty sad situation. So unfortunately,
that's too bad.
It is trucking and it is the world. Some crazy stuff happens.
Those doggone tuck drivers.
That tuck driver. He should have tucked his glasses in his pocket so he could have grabbed them. Well, with that, Keith, you got anything to add in there?
Nope, that's about it.
Any upcoming news?
Trying to sell trucks and get trucks on order and get quotes out and everything like that. And I think we said it on the last podcast that emissions got kicked down the road, 9 months. So October 1st is when they're going to kick back in. But there will be a penalty until then. And you just run the current engines and pay the non-compliant penalty.
To me, that seems like really big news. It just because a lot of the clients I work with, they always complaining and belly aching about having to get the new stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, now is the opportunity. You can get something with a little bit of the older stuff. I know it's still got a lot of the new stuff in it per se, but this is a chance to jump in and get you a really good truck without some of the new specs and stuff like that. So definitely think people should reach out here to Keith at Rush and find him on Rocky Mountain Peterbilts. Have you done any new videos on Rocky Mountain Peterbilts?
I have. Yeah, we are now an auto car dealer. I just put up a video of terminal tractors, just for moving all the trailers around a yard or whatever. Just sold a tandem axle one. We can do single axle. So we're an auto car dealer now. I don't know if that's going to expand into auto cars, straight trucks, tractors, things like that. But right now it's just terminal tractors or yard dogs. So it's interesting to see a new yard dog because all the yard dogs I've seen are beat to a pulp.
Yeah.
Well, the AC doesn't work. You're lucky if the lights work. I mean, they're just beat because they take a beating.
Yeah.
But so I had to go to Kersey and fill it up with fuel and then deliver it to the customer's place about 30 miles south of Kersey at 30 miles an hour.
Oh. She does not drive fast.
No.
Nice and slow.
No, I was going down county. We call it I-49, County Road 49.
Yeah.
I was going down County Road 49 with my flashers on, just putzing along, and everybody just going by me. So
sure, I'm sure a lot of truck traffic on the.
There's
Kersey
a lot
Road.
of truck traffic. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that a lot of them trucks probably saw that auto car where they were probably actually pretty impressed with it. But again, they're blown by you on that road. So yeah,
that's kind of what's going on with us. You want to get something, not pay the non-compliance penalties and get into the new stuff. We just got to get it done before the first of the year. So we've got trucks in stock. We can order trucks still get them in. So
all right. Well, hopefully people jump on that and get going. Our Freight Waves went live on the 1st, so we're on day 3. So all of our stuff's on Freight Waves. I did have a little meeting this morning with Nicole saying, "Hey, how's it going?" She said they just did a couple little finalizations, so it sounds like today, maybe tomorrow, it's going to start to flood across. So all of our little clicks. So if you're going through and you see anything about front range compliance or DOT on DOT University on Freight Waves, check it out. I'm pretty excited to see us on there. I got to get with their a couple of their what the truck, and there was one other one we're gonna see if we can get on there and do some interviews. I was gonna drop the line there. The word is that they're super excited to hear about the Truck Around and Find Out podcast. So I'm gonna try to get us some plugs for this too. But our stuff on Freight Waves is all going to be about DOT University and front range compliance, and then kind of through that we'll get that going. And probably ought to have old Redbeard check the website, make sure we've got some link ups for TAFO through those channels too, or through that channel. But especially since we're going to be getting some new clicks on the website. But other than that, that's about all I've got for us today, Keith. So all right. Well, thanks for tuning in, catching us on our podcast. We tried to have a little fun today talking about some of these topics and a little interruption in the middle, but that was all fun too. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you and what you do moving the freight down the road, keeping America moving forward. Keep our shiny side up. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on one of the next episodes.
God bless you guys.